What if we could actually build a better raindrop? I mean, really think about that. Today, we're diving into a totally new, nature-inspired way to make it rain that could, honestly, reshape how we manage our planet's most important resource. So let's get into it.
And really, it all boils down to this one powerful question. For years, we've tried to force our will on the weather. But what if, instead of fighting nature, we just borrowed its own blueprint? What if we used its oldest tricks to solve one of our biggest modern problems, water scarcity?
All right, so to really understand why this new idea is such a game changer, we first have to look at what we're doing right now. And let's be honest, our current methods for making it rain are, well, they're long overdue for an upgrade. You know, for over 70 years, we've been trying to give clouds a little nudge. The idea is to spray these fine particles up there to encourage ice crystals to form, which then grow into raindrops. And the go-to material for this has always been silver iodide. And look, it kind of works, but it also comes with a whole list of growing concerns. And this table really lays it all out, doesn't it? On one hand, you have the old way, using a heavy metal that leaves stuff behind in the environment, raises all sorts of red flags, and it can get pretty expensive. The future we're shooting for, it's the complete opposite. It's biodegradable, it's safe, it's efficient. That's the target. Okay, so if we're moving on from silver iodide, what are we moving to? Well, the answer, and this is the really cool part, has been literally floating around in our atmosphere for millions of years. That's right. Nature is the OG cloud seeder. There are certain types of bacteria and even some kinds of pollen that are unbelievably good at kickstarting the freezing process in what's called supercooled water. That's water high up in the clouds that's still liquid, even though it's below freezing. These tiny things are the absolute masters of the craft. So, what's the secret sauce? It's these things called ice nucleating proteins, or INPs. Think of them like a perfect little template. Their molecular structure is just right to show nearby water molecules how to line up and snap into an ice crystal. And they can do it at much warmer temperatures than water would on its own. This is the magic ingredient we're after. But hold on. It's not as simple as just scooping up these bacteria and spraying them into the sky. Nature's tools aren't quite ready for prime time as is. The bacteria themselves are fragile, they don't last very long up there, and the whole idea of releasing live organisms into the atmosphere is, a huge regulatory and ethical minefield. So what we really want is just the protein, not the whole bug. And this is where the human ingenuity kicks in. This is where we can take the absolute best parts of nature's design and engineer them into something way, way more effective. We're going to build a whole new kind of cloud seeding particle. Okay, the process is just brilliant. First, you take a tough little pollen grain. But don't worry, they strip out all the allergenic parts, and you use its hollow shell as a carrier. Step 2, you attach just the key fragments of those ice nucleating proteins right onto the surface. No living parts, no GMOs. But step 3 is the real game changer. You shape these particles into a tiny helix. So why a helix? Why that specific shape? Because of this number. A normal round particle just falls out of a cloud pretty fast. But this helical shape, it acts like a tiny propeller, or a micro-parachute, letting it hang around inside a cloud's updraft for 45 minutes or even more. That is a massive increase in what they call hang time, which gives it so much more opportunity to bump into water droplets and do its job. Now, you can have the best idea in the world, but you've got to prove it works. And the scientists behind this are taking that so seriously. They've adopted what they call a design to falsify philosophy, which basically means they are actively trying to find the breaking points of their own invention. They want to prove it wrong. And their roadmap for testing is just incredibly careful. It's designed to minimize risk and learn as much as possible at each step. So they start super small, in the lab, just testing on single droplets. Then they scale up to a big chamber that mimics a real cloud. From there, it's a small, real-world test with one drone. And only then, if all that works, do they go for a full-scale campaign with a whole swarm of drones. It's methodical, it's smart, and just look at these targets. I mean, they are not messing around. To get a pass, this technology has to increase rainfall by at least 10%. It has to completely biodegrade in under 2 weeks. It has to show zero biosafety issues, and it has to stay cheap. If it fails on any of these, like if it doesn't boost rain enough or if they detect anything they shouldn't, the whole project stops. That's accountability right there.
So let's play this out. Let's imagine this technology passes every single test and makes it through that gauntlet. What does that world actually look like? Well, we could be looking at a future of, you could call it smart rain.
This is really a whole new paradigm. We're talking about a tool that's not just more effective, but it's also responsible. It's totally free of heavy metals, it's completely biodegradable, it's super efficient and affordable, and this part is crucial, the whole thing is designed for transparency, with open data and public dashboards so everyone can see what's going on. You know, this quote from the lead author of the concept paper, Ido Margolin, it really captures the core idea. Now, I know it sounds super technical, but it boils down to exactly what we've been talking about, using just the protein fragments on these empty pollen shells. It's a really simple, elegant idea that's built on some seriously complex science. And so, that leaves us with this one big question to chew on. In a world that is facing more and more drought and water stress, the power to safely and sustainably make it rain where we need it most, I mean, that would be nothing short of revolutionary. Could this tiny little helix, inspired by something as simple as pollen, actually be a giant leap for our planet? It's a pretty incredible thought.